Carbon markets are increasing in popularity. We now see almost 20% of global emissions covered by a compliance carbon market. Putting a price on emissions can enable a country or jurisdiction to support decarbonisation without picking a specific technology or fuel. The European emissions trading system began in 2005 and remains the largest market today in terms of traded value. However, China's carbon market, which began in 2021, now represents the largest market in terms of emissions covered. So this raises the question, are carbon markets the answer to reducing emissions? So for this, we can take a look at the European emissions trading system. Since it began in 2005, we've seen emissions from stationary installations decline by over 40%. So the answer is yes, it can be effective. And following on from the discussion earlier around inflation, what carbon markets can do is they can also offer a tool to hedge inflation. They do this because the price follows the marginal abatement technology, which tends to increase in line with inflation. Most markets around the world also build in future scarcity, which puts upper pressure on prices. And lastly, some schemes, such as the California carbon market, have specific price floors, which increased in line with inflation. So the question then becomes, are carbon markets the answer to reducing emissions by themselves? And so to look at this, what we can do is see a scenario where we achieve net zero emissions using only carbon markets. And take Europe, for example, we would need prices well over $1,000 per tonne. Now, to put that into context, in April, the average price of the EU ETS was around $100 per tonne. So this is a 10 times increase. So pretty astronomical. And this is in large part because carbon markets incentivize least cost abatement first. For example, in the power sector, we have wind and solar. And then this should give enough time for hard-to-abate industries to establish their markets and see cost declines. However, the pace of decarbonisation and net zero targets mean the prices and costs faced by industries is actually still significantly high. And so with carbon markets alone and without additional investment, the prices required are astronomical. So I'm going to take you back to the original question, which is, are carbon markets the answer to reducing emissions? And the answer becomes yes, if they're used in conjunction with other policies. So what you can see on the right-hand side is a scenario by the International Energy Agency, which looked at achieving net zero with carbon markets, but alongside additional policy mechanisms. Now, as you can see, the price Europe would now pay is around $250 per tonne. For context, BloombergNEF is expecting the carbon price in 2030 in the EU ETS to be around $170 per tonne. So 250 is then not so extreme. And this is going to be a crucial part of the discussion as more and more geographies set net zero targets, as we've seen over the last few years. So I will leave you with carbon markets are an incredibly important tool in policymakers' toolboxes, but they should be used in combination with additional investment and additional policies. Thank you very much.